But hey, Garrett, it's finally to rest. It's finally to rest, Garrett. Short arm tackles have finally gotten drafted to the Chiefs because, guys, there is more to evaluating players than length of their arms specifically.
This is very true. Not only is this a revelation for just the Chiefs, this is a revelation across the board, as honestly most of the first round tackles and tackles in general in this draft had under, the considered recommended 34-inch arms, right? I mean, we got guys like Josh Simmons, 33 and a half, Kelvin Banks, 33. But I think this is a push forward for tackles in that area. We saw a lot of comments being like, oh, we wouldn't want Kelvin Banks because his arms are a little too short, or we would never draft Josh Simmons because we just don't go that way in terms of length. Put him to bed, put it to rest. We got a really good player in the first round, and I'm excited to see how he produces in the future.
8 offensive linemen drafted in the first round. People were saying this draft class for offensive linemen might be weak. I disagreed, and it looks like it might be a really strong class, especially with the capital of where some of these guys went. So the Chiefs loaded up, got Josh Simmons, got 6 other guys too that we could talk about, and I cannot wait to do our draft recap. This is Talking Chop. We're back. We're going to talk some more. It's season 2, episode 3 of Chop Talking. Roll the clip, Steven.
Yeah, I want to just talk about that for a second.
This guy is a beast.
It seems like he just rubs butter on himself.
Because he had 2 touchdowns, baby.
Who is this Steven character?
I was about I had 10 seconds of intro to think about.
Steven.
Yeah, I had 10 seconds to think about why I said that. And here's why I said that. If y'all, this dates me a little bit. It doesn't date me. It puts me in the generation that I am. That was a joke amongst the Tobuscus community. So deep pull for all y'all.
Back in the day.
But we're back today. Welcome back, watchers and listeners. It's Talking Chop. It's David Pokorny, Upper Hand Chiefs account runner, and Garett Aimtuis, offensive line coach. Now, Garett, I do want to say this. I might talk to Boss Man, say, hey, should Upper Hand Chiefs change their name to Talking Chop? Let us know in the comments below. If you just want it to all be one thing, if you just want the brand to just be Talking Chop, or
look,
if we change the
brand. I think it's a pretty good brand name.
Or we just change the podcast to Upper Hand Chiefs. No, that's never gonna happen.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as much.
No. But TC is back, Talking Chop with David and Garett. I know we took a little hiatus, guys. It's been a little busy, busy in the worlds that we've been working in. I know Garrett's been, finishing up his season, I guess, of school, and then I've been working on Diamond Sports. It's been busy over there, getting some more opportunities and responsibilities over there. But that's not why we're here, guys. We're here to talk about the 2025 NFL draft, specifically what the Chiefs did in that. But we're going to talk about some of the other ones. I mean, we have our draft crushes, Garett. I mean,
we have our draft. I mean, we had videos last year from when we did our last rounds live of guys that we really wanted going, and guys like Isaac Guerendo getting drafted to the Niners. And
I was going to bring that up. I knew you wanted to talk about him.
The Niners took all my players last year. The Raiders took all my players this year. It's like one specific team just goes after my hopes and dreams and crushes them expeditiously.
And speaking of hopes and dreams crushed, sorry to all the Kobe Bryant stans out there.
Yeah, dude.
I will say
the Kobe Bryant stands, man.
We put him in some of our mocks. I mean, was it to make you guys happy? Yes. Did we still think he was a good player and should have got drafted? Yes. I am a little shocked he didn't get drafted, but I guess size really does matter for how tall a corner is versus how long the arms of an offensive tackle are. Honestly, because going back to the tackle argument, Garett, because that we've been beating that horse all off season about how it doesn't matter. It's the laziest form of offensive line analysis. There are just so many talking heads, and listen, we're talking heads too, don't get me wrong, but there's so many talking heads out there who don't want to do the work, don't want to look at offensive line play. It's a boring way to scout. So they just look at their immeasurables and they're like, oh, this guy's arms are short. This attributes to a long-standing trend of success not being good. But here's where I counter that, Garett. Athleticism in our offensive linemen and technique has gone in a opposite direction. In terms of it's been offensive linemen are more agile than ever before. Look at Penei Sewell with his quote unquote short arms, but he's got quicker feet than those guys with short arms.
Yeah, and I feel like this longer arm argument comes from the age old football notion of you want your left tackle or your outside tackles to be these these grinders and these absolute just cinder blocks out there that'll stop everyone stone cold their tracks and also be these generational grinders in the run game. Whereas I think the game is more evolving away from the run, and I think we're going to these more agile and more footwork-based tackles, right? And with that, I don't think you necessarily need that extended arm length for that. Obviously, it helps out a lot. But when you put on tape that you can perform against these, top-end DNs that we're seeing come out of these draft classes and perform well in the NFL, I think we look at the tape rather than measurables in that instance. Obviously,
Will Campbell said it best. Will Campbell came out and said, like, dude, all my play that I've had for so many years before the combine and you measured my arms, you guys thought I was a top tackle. And now that I have short arms, suddenly I can't play football. Like, I loved how he said that. That was summed up this draft class.
Look, it sums it up perfectly. And it's like we both agreed, right? I think a lot of people came into this draft class expecting the offensive line unit specifically to kind of fall a little bit and be underperforming. I think we both agreed that it's going to be quite the opposite. We saw a lot of offensive linemen go off the board in the first round. Plenty of them went off the board throughout the draft. And I like a lot of the guys that went. I mean, Gray Zabel went I think 19th. Steal of a pick for the Seahawks. He's going to be a phenomenal player there. Obviously got guys like Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks Jr. Not even mentioning Armand Membo. And who knows, we might have even gotten the steal of offensive lineman in the draft when it comes to Josh Simmons. I mean, without the injury, he was projected to be, that top 5 guy similar to Will Campbell, right? All depends on how he's going to come back from that patellar injury. I trust the Chiefs front office and rehabilitation center when it comes to that system. The KU Medical Center is phenomenal. That's where all the players go. They've done great work. We've seen players come back from injuries that are expected to be a lot longer, and they come back a lot sooner. So I think he's going to be fitting well in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point too about more of the offensive line going, like we didn't expect Josh Connerly to go in the first round. He ended up going in the first round. And then Donovan Jackson, a guy I did think would last second soar into the first round, went to the Vikings, a perfect landing spot for him. That's a guy who played left tackle for the Ohio State Buckeyes as well as Josh Simmons, who we took. Had to step up when Josh Simmons got down. So I love that pick for them because he's an elite guard and he did step up at left tackle. And that's what the Vikings needed. So I think everybody did really well. The offensive lineman landing spots were actually perfect. I think a lot of the offensive line went to destinations where I think they will succeed. And I think that's part of why this class is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the only whip, and I think you agreed as well, was I think we both agreed too that we were really happy that the Commanders at 29 took Josh Connerly Jr. so that we would still have Josh Simmons available on the board. I think we were both in the camp that they might have probably taken Josh Simmons. I think it's definitely a possibility that we take Josh Connerly Jr. if he's available at 32. But I'm very happy with the situation we were left with at 32.
And my knock on his play was really just in pass protection. He'd benefited a lot from Dylan Gabriel antics of like scrambling and whatnot. And like it does say a lot to hold your ground, even though you're forcing the pressure on the quarterback, but the quarterback doesn't get sacked. They still make a play. But Jaden Daniels, that's a good landing spot for that. And Patrick Mahomes would have been a great landing spot for that. But like you're saying, Garrett, I would rather just have a surefire tackle, especially with Josh Simmons' run playability, which is something that we failed at doing.
The biggest portion of our offense was being able to sit in the pocket and produce time, right? And sure, we can get that tackle that's used to like having this quarterback that's running around making scrambling plays, but we want Mahomes to be comfortable regardless of where he is in the pocket. The best time where he plays is where he can force the defense to make the pocket where he wants it, right? And if he wants to be able to sit back there and have 3 seconds, 4 seconds of time, we should be able to at least produce that a couple times. I think last season, that just never came.
Absolutely. And, it was, just like Ohio State, we had to put our left guard at left tackle. So unfortunately, we didn't get the championship. Dang, that would have been a really cool like graphic. It'd be like, hey, what do Ohio State and Chiefs have in common? They both won a championship by putting their left guard at left tackle. But
didn't happen. But hey, happy for them. But hey, we had a great draft class. A lot of the NFL, the pick is in. A lot of the NFL teams this year had really phenomenal draft classes. I think this is probably one of the best draft classes in a long time. I think there was a lot of value to be found in those late to middle rounds. And obviously, first round was filled with a lot of powerhouses too. So
it's funny because I feel like our take on that is a little contrary to popular belief. A lot of people think this is a mid class. I think it's a mid first round. I think it's honestly a lower first round, but I think the value in the middle rounds and even in the late rounds, dude, the fact that Brashard Smith, we will talk about him endlessly. This is the perfect complement to Isaiah Pacheco. It couldn't have been a better pick. I mean, we'll talk about him more, but I'm going to quickly go over all the picks that we're in. This is the old graphic we would have put on if we did the draft live. But Josh Simmons in the first round, left tackle, Ohio State. Omar Norman Lott, D tackle from Tennessee. Ashton Gelati, we just learned his name, how to say it.
Could be wrong, could be right, but we're going to go with Gelati.
Gelati. Edge rusher out of Louisville. Noel Williams. I really liked this pick. Cornerback out of Cal. This was a good one in the third round. Jalen Royals, a guy everybody's super hyped about in the fourth, was kind of a steal. Honestly, Garrett, I don't know why I'm not putting the graphic up because I have it. So here it is. And then Jeffrey Bassa in the fifth. We traded up for him. Apparently with that guy too. Veach said, look, we were going to probably take a running back here in the fifth, but we saw Jeffrey Bassa falling. We were like, this is a guy we want. We're going to trade up and get him. And we know it's a strong running back draft class. We can get somebody in the seventh that we like. And boy, howdy did they. Brashard Smith, SMU legend. Oh my gosh, this guy.
Yeah, a generational fall for Brashard Smith, only countered by our boy Shador up at the top. But I think Brashard easily could have gone as early as maybe late third round, but he just kept falling and falling. And to lead a team to the college football playoffs and have that kind of stat line, I think it was 18 touchdowns, 1,700 yards.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what other GMs were looking at, but
I think to honestly to attribute to his fault, that was his first year of being a running back. Was it an amazing year as being a running back for your first time ever? Yeah, hell yeah. But I mean, hey,
right. I mean, I think the biggest issue there is they're going to look at, can that vision come up to the NFL level when it comes to, reading in between offenses and finding gaps and spaces. But best part is he was a wide receiver transferred into running back. We don't ask our running backs to play running back that often anyway. So we're going to see him all over the field lining up in a lot of different positions, and I think it's going to fit just well in for what he plays.
Dude, I think I'm gonna take him in NFL fantasy dynasty drafts. I think that's gonna be like a guy who will rack up those PPR points. So Rashad Smith, watch out. But I mean, let's talk about Mr. Josh Simmons right off the bat, Garrett. I mean, we already talked about him very much in depth, so we can kind of wrap it up.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, we talked about him in depth, but I mean, the guy is super athletic, very agile. He's paired with really good size, really good footwork. Before the injury, I mean, he was touted as one of the top, if not the top offensive tackles in this class going forward. And obviously patella, that's a really hard injury to come back from. We keep hearing this all over all the talking heads as we talked about. That's the biggest going issue, is that this is a really hard injury to come back from and play at the level he was before. I think, though, if there's any kind of room, any kind of rehabilitation crew that can really get a guy going, I think it's the Chiefs. We've shown time in, time out that injuries, we've had players come back a lot earlier than expected from a lot of them, and we've seen guys like Mahomes come back with no little kinks in their steps, right? So
yeah,
I don't have that problem. I'm not too worried about that, but if he can come back and play at the level he was playing at in 2023 and in 2024 before the injury, we're going to have our left tackle for a very long time.
You're not going to get a chance at a generational left tackle unless they got injured when you're picking at 32. Well, that was funny too. We were picking at 31 and then we traded back to 32. We should talk about that because we didn't even talk about that, but briefly.
Just got pretty much a free pick out of it too. I mean, we were never going to
take Jahad Campbell.
I mean, hey, I mean, he would have been a great player. Obviously, I mean, he's going to be phenomenal for the Eagles, but we didn't need him. Everyone knew we were going tackle, and Veach just got a free little pick out of it. So.
And we needed that pick because it allowed us to move a little bit more flexible in the draft of where we wanted to get guys, so we could focus on, hey, we want 7 players. We want to draft 7 players, but the 7 players we want to draft, let's trade up for them. So also all of the trades we did were really cheap to move up. We didn't really give up anything insane. We had 3 7th-round picks.
Yeah. Only
needed 1, and that was to get Rashad Smith.
I do think my favorite part, though, of Josh Simmons, before we move on, is that a lot of left tackles or tackles in general that we've had have been true run style, run style offensive tackles. This is the complete opposite. He leans more towards true pass set. If there's anything he's really good at, it is protecting the quarterback, and that's 100% what we need. I'm totally fine if he needs a little bit of work in the run game, if as long as we can get him time in the pocket.
Absolutely. And I did want to shout out the Patriots really quickly because they allowed us to trade up for not only Noah Williams, but also Brashard Smith. Two really clutch trades by the Patriots. And they didn't ask for much, Garrett. They didn't ask for anything crazy. I think we gave
It's
up.
just the previous dynasty helping fuel the current one, right? What can we say?
Absolutely. Let's move on, Mr. Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee. This is a guy who everybody that I've seen, like Chiefs fan wise, has like been in love with. Like they really liked this pick. I think we needed a defensive tackle. This kind of feels like the Tershawn Wharton replacement. He was more of a rotational pass rusher when he was at Tennessee. It's kind of just how they run things over there, is having a lot of great pass rushers that just do rotational pass rushing. So 4.5 to 5 sacks in the last 2 seasons at Tennessee are pretty good numbers for that kind of position. So I just think it was a position of need. We filled it, and can't ask for a whole lot there, especially because the run on D tackles. I think that these picks don't highlight that. The run on offensive linemen and defensive tackles was insane. And the first 2 rounds, that was all people were taking. So the Chiefs had to do it sooner rather than later. So
yeah. And I've seen a lot of people worried about the size of Norman Lott. I mean, he's not
big enough, 300.
Yeah, I mean, he's 291. I think traditionally you want a little larger, but then again, in Spags defense, we have players moving all over the board, moving out from that inside shade to the 3 tech, sometimes even moving out to the 5. He's explosive off the ball, really athletic, has good speed. I think that's the kind of D tackle that Spags was looking for anyway, in the replacement of Tershawn Wharton. But I don't really have a problem with the size. I think the explosives and the tape shows for it.
Yeah, you're kind of right. I did just make a double check on his combine measurements. They were different than what Tennessee listed him as, because some of these teams, man, they just make them taller or bigger in their college football websites than they are actually. But yeah, I mean, 10 pounds, what's the difference, right? Ashton Gelati, we like that name. That name is fun to say. But this is one that was the only pick in the draft that I am not like head over heels in love with. And that's just, I think, out of ignorance. I wasn't familiar with his game. His 2023 season was much better than his 2024 season. 2023, he had 11 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. Screams Veach edge rusher right there. But, 2024, a little down year, less sacks, a lot less pressure. So, but, if he turns out to be the correct defensive end to pick there, I wanted Landon Jackson personally, the Arkansas edge, who was 6'6" and like 260 pounds and felt like a really good like Carlos Dunlap type of player. Bills ended up taking him then like 3 or 4 picks after this. So, but yeah, I mean
he's the prototypical Spags D end.
He looks like
really
George
athletic. He's pretty much just George Karlaftis, just like a Boca Raton version. I think that's where he's from, out of Florida. But I mean, we're gonna see how it goes. I mean, obviously, Spags is looking really in depth with these players. I think he's gonna fit our system really well.
The reason I like the pick though is because, Garrett, we said this throughout the entire process of the pre-draft. We wanted to go offensive tackle, defensive end. We had been very adamant that was like the first 3 picks need to be offensive tackle, defensive end.
And they agreed.
And they did that. So you got to be happy with the positions we took there, especially maybe if they weren't the players we were in love with, because you always fall in love with other players. Speaking of falling in love with players, Noah Williams out of Cal in the 3rd round, another player we traded up for. Thank you, Patriots. Dog, dude. A zone corner, which is perfect for a Spags defense. I mean, honestly, this is perfect getting a corner here. I know we just signed Christian Fulton, and we signed him to some pretty good money, but we really needed, like, Jalen Watson's still really good, but he was injured. We really needed that 4th corner that Noah Williams could potentially compete for CB2, in my opinion. He's that good. But you know what this does, Garrett? Chamari Connor can finally be a safety, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, we really just needed that true corner. I'm really happy that we talked about this before as well. We didn't go safety. We had enough safeties. We had enough cornerbacks that were playing safety. I think we just really needed that true cornerback to play that position, compete for that 2 spot, 3 spot, and alleviate a lot of that pressure from guys that were not normally used to playing corner.
Because now, look, Najee Johnson can go back to being a safety. And you got Chamari Connor can go back to being a safety. And now you have a good safety room there too, especially with, Brian Cook could be good, but Jaden Hicks is going to be a stud. Like, and that right. Secondary room, I feel a lot safer with now.
And now with that, right, we can with guys like Chamari Connor, right, it's like now we don't have to rotate them into different positions out of need. We can do it out of matchups, right? Which is what Spags wants to do, right? We were moving these guys down to play corner out of a need due to our injuries and our players leaving. Lack of depth, right? But now with the addition of Noel Williams and a guy like Christian Fulton, we can allow guys to go back to their original positions and rotate them in there if the matchup calls for it, not just for a need.
And what's great too is, dude, Joshua Williams is now like maybe CB5, and he was a guy who could start at CB2 in some situations
in the season
when we had to need it. So really good depth in our secondary. That's what we were kind of missing last year, in my opinion. Like we had it the year before. And then, that Snead loss actually hurt a little bit more. Now, do I think we got rid of Snead at the perfect time? Yes, because he was not the same player anyway. He wouldn't have been last year, even if he stayed with us.
Now, he did get injured, but that's besides the point. He was still performing less before the injury.
Well, and allegedly he had that injury before we traded him too. So that's probably, he was just playing through it like a dog. Respect to Mr. Snead over there. He's an absolute
Chiefs legend.
Yes. Also, I forgot I don't think we said that Noel Williams had the most interceptions in FBS football last year. I think he had 7. So
yeah, just a casual, little quick fact there that we talked all great about this guy. Didn't even bring up one of the most impressive stats, and that should really tell you a lot about the guy.
Exactly. I really don't. I mean, it was a good corner class, and that's all. I mean, that's all you can ask for. So I mean, that's when you get steals. That's why I think this draft class is so good for the Chiefs, is because all these positions that we drafted, besides wide receiver, I think were positions that were really strong in this draft class.
Yeah.
So we were able to get good guys at the positions that we needed in this draft class instead of forcing it. All right, let's move on to the GOAT, JALEN Royals out of Utah State. This is a guy that
Perfect
a lot of people.
Perfect last name.
Royals. I mean, Casey Royals, already a guy who's beloved by Chiefs Kingdom purely based on his last name, but his play also is something worth getting excited about. I mean, he was injured last year, which is why he fell. He did play for Utah State, which they do play some, less top tier opponents than, your average school would in FBS. But listen, Steve Smith Sr. likes him, and that means I like him. Some people had critiques on him. He got injured last year and he still had 834 yards. He only played 7 games and he had 834 yards last year. But the year before, when he played a full season, he had 1,000 and he had 15 touchdowns. So this guy just gets the ball. He's a deep threat too. I saw a stat, and I don't have it perfectly memorized, but the stat basically said that like he had so many catches of 50 plus yards. And that's something that we're missing a lot too, was those deep bombs. And I think he brings the deep bomb back. He's
also not 5'9", which is nice. It's nice to not have a receiver that's 5'9", 5'8". Kid's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's a bigger body, and he can go out there and catch a lot of contested catches.
He just feels like a wide receiver.
This
like
is
he just
true.
Feels like a normal wide receiver.
I think a lot of people, when you mention this, don't really understand. When we say Steve Smith liked the guy, Steve Smith Sr., when he has been nails when it comes to viewing prospects at the wide receiver position before a draft class comes out, and he's been right about almost every single one.
He did like Sky Moore a little bit, which is the only like whiff I've seen really, but like he was absolutely right about Quinton Johnston recently, saying that he was going to be a bust. He was right about Cooper Kupp. That's his most famous take, saying Cooper Kupp was going to be the best in whatever draft class that was, because nobody was saying that. And that was the year, like, that was a really bad draft class, wide receiver wise. I think Juju and Kupp came from the same year.
Yeah.
But I mean, those were the 2 biggest names from that draft class. But
that's what the 2019 draft class, right?
Some maybe before that, Garrett. Cooper Kupp's been around for a while. Oh, I guess 2019. 2019 actually was a long time ago now. We can look it up real quick. We don't have Statman Jackson today.
This is true. Statman Jackson is gone today. But,
man, 2017. Yeah, so it's 2017 draft class.
Yeah, it was Mahomes and Juju were drafted the same class. I'm stupid.
Oh, yeah, duh. So, okay, perfect. I mean, and the wide receiver that I was thinking of at pick 5 was Corey Davis. Legendary wide receiver. We tend to get sidetracked here, but I mean, hey, oh God. Okay, sorry. Now I'm seeing it, and it's like John Ross. This is the John Ross.
Oh, I forgot John Ross.
Zay Jones went in the second round. He was okay. I mean, Juju Smith. I mean, Curtis Samuel. Taiwan Taylor. I remember him. Titans legend. And then Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp. And oh my gosh, the wide receivers get so bad, I don't even recognize them. Oh, Kenny Golladay was drafted in this one. Okay, I gotta stop looking at this. I gotta focus up. But
regardless,
Kenny Golladay
Royals,
might be the third best wide receiver in that draft class. That's crazy.
Oh my god. Anyway, Jalen Royals, I think he's pretty much a sure pick to fit into that like maybe 5th or 6th wide receiver spot.
He might make it to the 4th or 3rd, Garrett. I mean, listen. It
just
third.
Depends how how the dominoes fall in.
Depends
in the
on
wide
if
receiver
she can play.
It's like we talked about in that group chat, right? It's that bottom spot, before the cuts, right? That's Remigio to lose, right? So it just depends on if they like Remigio over some other guys, Royals over some other guys that have been staples on the offense for a long time. But I like his chances. I like his tape and I like his measurables. So.
Well, I think he's a lock, and I think Hollywood is a lock, Worthy is a lock, Rashee Rice is a lock. So that leaves 2 guys, and it's like Sky Moore, Nico Remigio, and like who are they? Who do you think like could knock them out? Is like the question of the day. I know people like Tyquan Thornton and Justin Ross, and like
the Ross experiment is over. I think, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I think so too. People are liking that guy out of Florida, which I mean. Should we take a little intermission, I guess, to talk about the UDFAs because we signed them.
We only have a couple, our last 2 picks in the draft to worry about, so we can come back and finish up on them after some UDFAs.
So we'll go over just the list of UDFAs that we got a bunch of them. I won't highlight all of them, but Elijah Badger, the wide receiver out of Florida, is somebody that people have been really interested in. I personally don't really see it. I mean, he's a bigger body and he can be a red zone threat, but like he better be able to play special teams because I mean Nico Remigio sure as heck can play special teams. So, but then you got Jake Brenningstool, tight end out of Clemson. This guy's a beast. I think he's going to make the final roster low key because we didn't draft a tight end. We didn't sign a tight end. We lost 2 tight ends.
We're real thin at that position, and if history shows correctly, we like to have a couple on the roster. So I think it'd be a pretty unless we bring in another one, obviously in the offseason. But
history shows too that we like to keep UDFA tight ends as well. Jody Fortson, UDFA tight end. Baylor Cupp was on the roster for a little bit.
Well, yeah, he was definitely on the roster. We can give him that. And then did he ever play a game? I think he did, right?
Yeah, he did. He had that drop that was really cool.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think that's exactly why I remember that he played in a game is because he had that one bad drop. But
yeah, I mean, this is another guy too that I'm not going to highlight him because he didn't make the team. This is one of the rookie camp invites, which we had a lot of those guys. Jared Casey, tight end out of KU, is another one that people like, but he was only a rookie camp invite, so that doesn't mean he's on the team. But he got to play around with us, so that's kind of cool. Mahomes' brother, Loki, not that great. He's really, that's from his 4-year college career at Brown and Rice. It's rookie camp. A little nepotism goes a little ways.
Let's throw around with the kid a little bit. Let him show off. Maybe he'll find a practice squad somewhere else.
Yeah, who knows?
So someone a little bit more desperate than we are for that position.
But I mean, back to some of these UDFAs. I mean, Essa Pohl, a guy that I predicted going to us in the 7th round, was someone we were able to get as a UDFA. He's an offensive tackle at Washington State. We really liked him. He had no sacks allowed last year. That's big. Melvin Smith Jr., the top 30 visit we spent on Melvin Smith Jr. That DB out of Southern Arkansas, man, with the crazy 4 touchdowns in the last 2 years, all those interceptions. I think he had like 9 in the last 2 years. And then he had he ran a 4.33 or something really fast like that. So listen, he was a kick returner.
He might be nice with it.
He was a kick returner too. If he could beat out Nico Remigio as a kick returner, now all of a sudden the wide receivers that we keep could be all changed around.
Now that'd be kind of tough though. Remigio was kind of banging when it came to returns last year.
Exactly. So I mean, Melvin Smith Jr. is going to have a hard way to make the roster, especially with all the corners. But, dude, that's going to be a practice squad stash that I think we're going to really like. So that'll be good, too. Brandon George, linebacker out of Pittsburgh, is another guy that people just like. He's a big guy. He has like an insane RAS score, which is that athletic score that everybody loves to look at. He's like a 9.4 or something on that score. So, he's just a really big and athletic guy. His weakness is, I think, speed. But, I mean, everything else, he's just a dog in terms of that. So potentially a developmental guy. And then, Connor Izzard out of Penn State was another guy that people liked. We also got picked up 2 running backs, one from Stephen F. Austin, one from Western Kentucky.
Yeah, that Keziah Izzard guy is interesting because I think that's the most Z's I've ever seen in a name ever. I've never seen anyone with 4 Z's in their name, let alone probably 3.
And then I think, honestly, to round it out, Garrett, we got a punter, Eddie Kazaplicki.
That is definitely not how you say that name, but I like the
Zaplicki.
I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce that last name.
But is he gonna potentially push for Matariza's spot? Because that's not a lock. Matariza's on a very, very cuttable
it's like
deal.
Choplicki or something. It's like Czech or something.
Yeah, well, I'm actually Czech, so I should know how to pronounce that. But mine's easy to pronounce. Pokorny, like, come on. There's no funny letters in there.
Yeah, but hey, when it comes to UDFAs, guys, don't be surprised if a good amount of them make the roster. I mean, even last year, right, we had guys that were UDFAs make the roster and contribute quite a bit of yards, right? I mean, we had Carson Steele, right, UDFA out of anyone can make the roster.
That's someone who I think will be on the roster bubble too. And we'll talk more about that in a later episode when we do the 53-man roster predictions. But I think Carson Steele might not make the team next year, which is crazy to think about.
I think that's also true.
Like, he had a lot of opportunities last year and he didn't really show up as well as he did in preseason. But still love the guy.
Even with the injuries to the running back room and the openings, I just don't think he performed well enough in that opportunity slot to prove to keep a roster spot over guys like Kareem Hunt or Pacheco or even Brashard Smith, who we're about to talk about.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, we're talking a lot about we're talking a lot about this like positional upgrades. It's great that we have these problems because before it was like, who are we even going to keep at this point? So anyway, let's go back to the draft class. The pick is no longer in. Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. This is a guy that Veach loved so much in the 5th round that he said, you know what, we wanted a running back here, but we're going to trade up and get this guy because how is he still available? This is the perfect Spags linebacker. We don't know how long Drew Tranquil is going to be with us. We don't know if we're going to re-sign Leo Chenal. And Nick Bolton just got an extension, so he's going to be here for 3 more years. But I always felt like out of those 3 linebackers, we really never had a 4th linebacker that was really good. We're missing kind of a Willie Gay type, I guess you could say. We didn't re-sign Willie Gay. We got Jeff Bassa instead. And you know what's great about him? He played safety his freshman year, and this guy just flies all over the field. He has a pick 6 to his credit in his college career. He's a 4-year starter that he's played at Oregon. He's just an absolute beast. He flies all over the field. Spags is going to love this guy. This is going to be a weird comparison, and bear with me here. I feel like he's going to be deployed as a rookie the same way that Ben Neiman was deployed, but he's actually just going to be good at football instead of Ben Neiman kind of being deployed out of necessity.
Instead of being a special team specialist,
Well, you would have Ben Neiman in on 3rd downs randomly because, Bolton couldn't do as much coverage on 3rd downs. I think you'll see Bassa in on 3rd down sets because he's fast and he's agile and he's good in coverage. Yeah. So he's going to play a lot of 3rd down.
A really underrated thing about his game that I heard about was that when it comes to like the football IQ and learning the defense and learning, where everyone needs to be in their position, I heard that his football IQ was pretty high from his coaches. They said he was a really great leader, really great communicator. So that's another thing to have in a Spags defense when there's so many different moving parts, so many just specialized little locations people have to be in. Having someone that's really good with football IQ and knowing a defense can be really beneficial out there, especially if we go lean towards more of that Ben Neiman role, coming in on those crucial 3rd downs, making sure everyone's in the right spot.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is just a home run pick. I love this pick. It's a player that I wasn't as familiar with prior to the draft, but then doing some research on him, I was like, wow, how did he fall? And I mean, maybe that's why he fell. He just wasn't talked about in the media as much. So shout out Jeff Bassa. He also did a really cool thing I forgot to mention. His teammate, Kyron Williams. Sorry, that's the wrong guy. That's the running back for the Rams. I meant Kyrie Jackson, his teammate, unfortunately passed away when he got drafted by the Vikings. He picked 31 for the Chiefs to honor his fallen teammate. And I think that's really cool. And I think all the more reason to love this guy, Jeff Bassa. Sorry, Kyron Williams, for randomly. There's a lot of names in my head right now, okay? Moving on to the final pick, dude. Brashard Smith, running back, SMU. Garrett, we both picked a guy in our mock drafts that ended up going to the Chiefs. That's something that's got to be fun. That's something that's a great feeling.
It's hard to hit even one. You know, I was hoping to hit maybe more than one, but I will absolutely take the one. Also, quick shout out to my boy Graham Mertz. All y'all in the comments, bro is going undrafted. Not only did he get drafted, the Texans, bless their hearts, traded up for my boy, saw something in him, and took him. I'm really excited for him. I think he's going to do really well there. I think he will make the 53. Dude's going to ball out. Finally has a good O-line. Finally has good receivers to work with. He is going to be, in my opinion, the next. Why do I keep blanking on this kid's name?
Chiefs legend Gardner Minshew.
Chiefs legend Gardner Minshew. He's going to ball out in preseason. He's going to find himself some work in another team after he shows what he can do. And I think he's going to ball out. Congrats to my boy.
Hey, you know what's even crazier too, to all the haters on your pick, which included me? He got drafted before Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, which is actually insane. I cannot believe Graham Mertz went before Quinn Ewers. I genuinely can't believe it. I'm literally fidgeting right now with the Longhorn Network football right now. How the heck did that happen?
It's because he's got that dog in him. That's my dog right there.
Hey, but speaking of dog in him, Brashard Smith, I mocked him to us in the 4th round. It's funny, actually, Garrett, because now that I'm looking at this mock, Ty Robinson went in the 4th round and Brashard Smith went in the 7th round. So, you could just switch those picks, I guess. But I'm so happy that we got a guy that I wanted. Brashard Smith is an absolute beast. Listen, how did Brashard Smith fall this low? Like, I think there's 2 factors. One, it was a very deep draft class in running backs. Like, you could get that Devin Neal fell to the 6th. Like, there was so many good players. Ollie Gordon in the 6th. Like, so many good players you get late. Damian Martinez in the 7th. I'm just thinking of them off the top of my head right now. So I understand, there's so many good running backs. You didn't want to overreach for one when you knew that there was going to be a guy that you liked towards the end of the draft that was still going to be there. So with that, you see the fall. Also, it was his first year ever as a running back. That's what's craziest about Brashard Smith, bro. He was on a college football playoff team, the SMU Mustangs, and he was their lead running back. He had 1,700 yards. He had 18 touchdowns, as you mentioned, Garrett. He had more receiving yards last year than he did in any other season as a wide receiver at Miami from where he transferred. Shout out to SMU, man. They just said, "Who's this Miami wide receiver kid? We think he could play running back. We're gonna switch him to running back."
And then he balled out.
And then
he balled out for a playoff team.
I was like, how does he get so good as his first year as a running back? It's insane. But this is a perfect fit for the Chiefs. He's a Jerick McKinnon type. He's a Samaje Perine type. He's a receiving back. He's going to get those. He's just going to rack up so many catches out the backfield, especially as a rookie. I think he's going to make an impact. Yeah. He's the only receiving back on the roster, and he's just going to complement us so well. We needed a receiving back, and we got one.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people that are confused about like the falls for certain players in drafts, you guys need to realize that these visits and these pre-draft visits and these combine workouts and watching all of these players and being able to talk to them in person, it has a lot more value than I think a lot of people understand, right? Like, if I'm a front office, if I'm a GM, right, and there's 2 players available, it's the 6th round, one guy fell, and maybe the news is saying one kid is better, but I've only had communication, I've only been able to scout the other guy. 9 times out of 10, they're going to go with the guy that they've already talked to and already know what they're about, right? They don't want to take chances on guys that they're not too sure about, they haven't interviewed. That's why these visits are so important. And we didn't visit with Brashard Smith, but I don't think at that time we had any other running backs that we had visited with in general.
Yeah, Damian Martinez went right before, and that prompted us to trade up to get Brashard Smith. We're like, okay, he's the guy we want.
But like to that point, right? It's like with the most famous example with this draft being Shedeur Sanders. It's like everyone's asking, like, why is he falling? Why is he falling? It's because it came out later that in all of these pre-draft interviews, he just didn't perform to par with what these GMs wanted, right? It's not some big mystery why a kid starts falling if he gets a lot of interviews and he bombs a lot of interviews. If I bomb a lot of interviews for my job, I'm not going to get hired.
Exactly.
So
I mean, it is character. Like you gotta worry. Like once you get paid that NFL money, if you don't love the game of football and don't want to play, you're gonna be a bust. Like, I mean, it's simply said that way. And I think too, with some of these guys falling, they might not have the career production profile that some of these teams want. Lots of teams draft differently. Some value certain positions higher than others. That's why the Ravens were able to get Malachi Starks late, because they valued that position.
And Mike Green.
Yeah, well, Mike Green fell because of other
well,
reasons
he fell for other reasons, but still, it's the same situation.
For those who are not privy to the news, he did a no-no. He did a no-no thing.
He did a very big no-no thing, and
like Isaiah Bond, who did not get drafted at all. So, and still is not on a team, which means he probably, NFL teams at least, probably think he did it. So, rip Isaiah Bond.
Well, let's just say we don't need another receiver with charges currently up on him.
Yeah,
I think we're done with that.
I also thought Jalen Royals was a better prospect. I was very low on Isaiah Bond before his allegations came out. I obviously watch a lot of Texas football, and I just didn't think he was all that, So, I mean, just a fast guy, but wasn't open a lot. And that's something that you can't really get. NFL is going to be different, man. So,
well,
back to Brashard Smith.
Yeah, back to Brashard Smith.
He ran a 4.39. He's fast too. That's what I was just looking up to while you were talking, Garrett, is he ran a 4.39, which, he's going to be zooming all over the field. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, we've got a pretty speedy backfield. Hopefully we can, at least one of the players, especially with the addition of Elijah Mitchell, just find that running back that can turn on that second gear. I feel like a lot of guys we have are fast, but they're fast in one gear, right?
Yeah.
We need to find that one running back that can be fast and also kick it up one gear to like make that long run touchdown, right? I think that's one thing we're missing, is just these long open runs. It's like we would have a lot of open space in the middle, but we would just get tripped up by the ankles so many times, right?
Yeah, and I think we need to go back. We don't have Statman Jackson today, so we have Statman David to correct an error from earlier in the episode, where we forgot Juju Smith-Schuster exists on this roster. So it's really going to be the top 5 wide receivers are locked. It's going to be whoever gets that 6th wide receiver spot. And that's going to be a battle between, Nico Remigio, Sky Moore, Justin Ross.
And Royals.
No, Royals is 5. Royals would be 5.
Okay.
Well, in my perfect world, Royals would be 5. Because it would be Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith at 4, Jalen Royals at 5. And then the 6th one would be either Nico Remigio, Sky Moore, Justin Ross.
I mean, that's an easy. I mean, if that's the case, that's an easy choice for me. It's Remigio.
Well, you don't think Tyquan Thornton or Elijah Badger can make it?
No.
Well,
and it's got to be Remigio.
And some people have said Mike Delaney or Delana, the other Fresno State guy that's like a kick returner too. But it's like, dude, I don't think. I like these. I like our wide receiver core as it is. I think we have the top 6 guys. I think it's a lock. Well, I don't know, Garrett. What do you do with Sky Moore? That's the thing. That's where it becomes a little difficult. Well, okay. I mean,
cut him. I mean, that's the simple solution, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a potential that he could wind up on the practice squad, but I still think he might make the final roster. Like, are they willing to give up on a guy they draft in the 2nd round?
Yes, or at least I would.
That's fair.
The kid hasn't performed when we've tried to get the ball in his hands. The kid has not performed.
That's fair.
I don't know how many more chances you want, really.
That's honestly fair. It's sad that it didn't work out.
It is.
Now,
what it is.
speaking of sad that didn't work out, let's go to some of our favorite draft prospects that went to other teams, and if we think it's going to work out or not going to work out. Because let's start this off with the thing that is probably most tragic to me as a fan of players who go to small schools, because I think everybody deserves a chance to be in the limelight. Browns, why you got to ruin Harold Fannin Jr.'s career by drafting him, bro? You did not need a tight end. What you needed was a wide receiver. You know what? Maybe they use him as a wide receiver because they're so lacking at wide receiver. They didn't draft a single one. They drafted a tight end, and they already have David Njoku. They don't need Harold Fannin.
They'll give him the Kyle Pitts treatment over there in Cleveland.
It's just like, bro, why? I thought he would have been good on so many other teams. The Browns took him really early, like right before.
Way earlier than we thought.
Yeah, like I think they took him before our pick too in the 3rd round. So, hey, the Browns got a guy that they really think is going to be good. I think he can be good if he's in the right situation. I think the Browns is a really tough landing spot, especially because have 5 quarterbacks. So, yeah, rip my boy Harold Fannin.
Yeah,
I'm
I feel like
rooting
a lot of Chiefs fans were with you on that one.
Yeah, I like our draft class better though. I don't like. I mean, we didn't want to reach on a tight end. If he was there, he went earlier than I wanted him anyway. So unfortunately, that's just how the draft falls. You got to have it. Garrett, you want to go with one of your guys that got drafted that made you sad?
I mean, we'll go with the combo. So last year, as we talked about before, the 49ers took a lot of my favorite players with the likes of Isaac Garendo and blanking on the wide receiver's name out of Florida.
Oh, Ricky Pearsall. I forgot. You were a big Pearsall guy.
Really liked both those kids. This year it's the Raiders. They took 3 of my favorite players. I mean, obviously we were never going to get this first guy, Ashton Jeanty. He's going to be he's going to be all pro first year. Phenomenal player. The kid is just lights out, generational athlete.
And hey, we talked about this pre-draft too, or pre-show, that we like what the Raiders are doing now that they have a history of bad first-round picks. They're saying, hey, let's just take the most generational prospect regardless of position. We don't care.
Brock Bowers last year. They're like, we are not missing, regardless of what happens with draft, we are not missing with our first-round picks. Took Brock Bowers last year, even if, did they have a lot more needs? Yeah, sure, but is Brock Bowers, that guy? He's that guy, right? And same thing here. Did they really need running back? Not really, but is Ashton Jeanty that guy? Yes, he is that guy.
Well,
right?
I mean, they needed a running back, but they definitely had more important
had more important holes, but Ashton Jeanty is going to be that guy. Followed up with Darian Porter Jr. That's another big one Chiefs fans were really itching for. Stole it right from under us. Really sad that I think he literally went right after our Omar Norman Lott pick. I think that's what I think it was literally the next pick.
Well, it was probably after the Gelati too, because those were like back to back. So, or maybe he went early in the second and we didn't even have a chance at him. So, but I mean, that was
finish it off. JJ Pegas, they took him in the 6th round. Honestly, I think you agree, David. That is a steal for Oakland. He's a phenomenal player. He's
you
really
mean Las
athletic.
Vegas now?
Yeah, sorry, Las Vegas. I didn't mean to give you guys some flashbacks if you were Oakland fans, but yeah, Raiders had a really good draft, I think, and they took a lot of my favorite guys. So
what's really funny about the Raiders draft, and I'll give them credit, is they got a lot of players. Or obviously they did get a lot of players.
No, they got a lot of dudes.
They got a lot of playmakers. That's what they got a lot of offensive guys and defensive guys that can mix and match. They drafted that quarterback out of Montana State who's going to go to wide receiver now. So that seems like trick play written all over it. You got the D tackle that can also play running back. And you got a 6'4" wide receiver. You got the best Heisman potential running back, and you got another wide receiver in Donta Thornton Jr. from Tennessee. So they got a lot of offensive weapons.
And they got Charles Grant. I like Charles Grant out of William and Mary. If we're talking small schools, offensive tackle, and they got Caleb Rogers as well. So they beefed up their O-line. Really, honestly, I mean,
they had a pretty good draft.
I know they picked a lot of my favorite players, and they had a really good draft. So
and they got a guy named Tonka. It's just kind of hype.
Yeah.
You never know. He could be a beast. Back to me. I mean, we talked about it a little earlier, so I'll just briefly touch on it. Landon Jackson was a guy I really liked, the edge out of Arkansas. I saw him on the board at our pick in the 3rd round, and I wanted a D-end. We got a D-end. It wasn't Landon Jackson, but that's okay. They know more than me, I guess, but I really like that 6'6", 260 frame. I mean, sometimes you get caught on the immeasurables and you never know, like the player might not pan out. So Bills took him. I think the Bills got a good value there though. So I think either way, it just came down to preference, and Gelati might be someone they have higher weighted, I guess. But hey, listen, those two are going to get compared. I tell you what, they're going to get compared.
Anytime the Bills and Chiefs draft a player from the same position, it's automatically going to be compared every time.
They're going to be compared. I mean, Garrett, this one's a guy who we both liked a lot. Devin Neal going to the Saints in the 6th round. I really like this for them. I think this was a great pick for.
It is a great pick. Saints had a good draft too.
You know what Devin Neal feels like? It feels like Mark Ingram. He feels like the Mark Ingram complement to Alvin Kamara, honestly. Like, he's definitely a little smaller, but he's still like a bruiser. He gets those hard-earned yards. He gets in the end zone, and I think he's going to touch.
And if you're talking about pure consistency at the running back position, I mean, Devin Neal has been the definition of consistent at KU.
He's going to vulture a lot of touchdowns from Kamara. So, I mean, Stay away from Alvin Kamara in fantasy is my opinion. Also because I did trade him away in my dynasty league before the season started. I knew the Saints were going to take a running back, dude. They always it's their time.
And keeping on the Saints train, I guess. Now this is a guy that if the draft had fallen a different way, if there wasn't a run on offensive tackles like we saw in the first round, I think possibly he falls a little bit more, and maybe, just maybe, we could have traded up and snagged him. But Kelvin Banks Jr. went to New Orleans. Phenomenal pick. Just adding on to that really great draft class that they had. Really great measurables, really great tape. Played phenomenally against, NFL caliber DNs. Just a lockdown left tackle that I was begging for us to somehow get, but went 9th or 10th?
Yeah, he went 9th. Listen, I'm a little mad at us because we kind of drank too much of that Kool-Aid of the the consensus picks. Like they were saying Kelvin Banks is gonna fall, and I just didn't believe it. I was like, he's not getting past the Bears at 10, and he didn't even get to the Bears at 10. And I mean, there was some, I think 33rd team.
Yeah, no, there was
the Chiefs at 31.
There was zero universe he falls to 31. I thought the most he would fall to was maybe 16 or 17 at most.
Yeah. I don't know where the Kelvin Banks fall projections started to come in, but I drank a little bit of it. I got excited. I mean,
if we're talking about tackles, in my opinion, I know people love Will Campbell. Kelvin Banks Jr. is the best tackle in the class. We'll see how that opinion goes throughout the next couple of years, but I mean, he has everything you want out of a left tackle. He's played against the best guys in college.
Saints are good at drafting tackles, I will say. They've really nailed it a lot with Ryan Ramczyk, Teron Armstead, their recent guy. I can't say his name. It's like Fulaga.
Yeah.
But he's good. And then now Kelvin Banks. I know they have another one in there that they missed on recently, but it's fine.
But Saints fans should be very happy with that pick.
And then speaking of, dude, Howie Roseman had another great draft. We should have known the Eagles were going to.
I mean, he's a really great GM. I mean,
and that's why I like that we traded with him.
Buts about it.
I like how we traded with him because what I heard, this is how the call went down, and I think it's hilarious and awesome. Brett Veach calls Howie Roseman. He goes, offense or defense? And they said defense, and they said, okay. And then they did the trade. And that's awesome. It's just strictly business with them. They knew what they had to do. They were scared that the Chiefs were going to trade their pick to someone else and Jahad Campbell wouldn't be there. But we're not talking about Jahad Campbell. I loved Andrew Makuba out of Texas. We didn't really need a safety. We could have definitely used a safety. But now with the pick of a corner, we got to move our safeties playing corners back to safety. So really, we just needed someone in the secondary.
Yeah, there really wasn't a corner at 32 that I think would have benefited from that spot anyway.
Well, so I mean, I'm talking about where Makuba went the second round or something. But even he went higher. Did he go in the third round or the second round? He went in the third round.
Yeah.
Right? We just looked at this. We should have written that down. And then they got Ty Robinson the fourth, which is a guy that we liked. We both mocked him.
He was the second round pick. He was the last pick of the second round.
Makuba was? Okay, that's good for him. Some people had him going to the fourth. I knew he was going to be a beast. I'm so glad he got drafted way higher than he was supposed to. But, I mean, that's just a great pick. That's what you got to go with. But Ty Robinson to the Eagles, Garrett, we both had mocked him to our team at some point. And that's just a defensive tackle from Nebraska who's he's a specimen that he could flourish, especially on the Eagles. I think they got their Milton Williams replacement. They got all their replacements really easily. They got Andrew Makuba's their Chauncey Gardner-Johnson replacement. They got everybody they want. So, Eagles they stay eagling.
This is true. This is why the good teams stay good, right? It's this is where it happens. It happens in the draft room, right? That's why guys like Howie Roseman have made the Eagles to where they are now. It's why guys like Brett Veach had made us consistent contenders and where we are now, right? It's keeping consistent draft classes good.
Yeah. Want to talk about another offensive lineman, Garrett?
Yeah,
on a team that did way crazier moves than just this.
This is true. The Jaguars, I know you guys are probably all hazed up in the glory of getting Travis Hunter. I get it. It's exciting. You guys had a crazy move up that really only came out the day before, if not 12 hours before the draft. And you guys also got a pretty good offensive tackle in Wyatt Millam out of West Virginia. I looked at this guy quite a bit going forward. I actually thought we were probably going to snag him around the third, and I think, if I remember correctly,
I think they got him in the third.
In the third, yeah, he went pick 25 in the third. Really great player, can play a lot of in a lot of ways. Really great pass set. He's just a great offensive lineman that's going to work out really well for him. I had thought that if we didn't go offensive tackle in the first round, that was kind of the way we were going to lean in the second or maybe even third. So I'm happy to see him go in the third.
Yeah, absolutely. And then a guy who had a crazy fall, but I've heard a lot of people were low on him, but still a great player. I think the Steelers had a great draft. First off, they got Derek Harmon, who they drafted a lot earlier. And then if you heard his pre-draft story, it was really sad. His mother passed away right after he was able to tell her that he got drafted. So she was basically staying on in critical condition. She was staying alive just to hear that her son got to the NFL, which is really cool. So glad that Harmon's mother got to die in peace knowing that, and that was a great pick. Then they got Caleb Johnson the second, great running back. And then they got Jack Sawyer in the fourth. Great D end. I mean, he ended the game. He's clutch. I mean, ended the game against Texas to send him home. I just thought it was a good pick, Garrett. You know, that's all I wanted to say. I don't have anything else to say. Gained a cool D end in the fourth round, you know. Very Steelers-esque.
Will Howard in the sixth was an L pick, though. Will Howard sucks.
No, dude. I think Will Howard was also a great pick in the sixth round. Oh, yeah. We want to talk about quarterbacks. They went all over the place. Nobody had the quarterbacks right. I'm just going to say that. Except all the Tyler Shuck guys.
If we're talking about like quality in the draft class this year, QB was not top of the list, to say the least. So it was really probably just which guy interviewed the best, which guy coaches like the best. So that's just why you saw a lot of quarterbacks going to a lot of different spots, right?
Everyone's evaluations were all over the place. I mean, the Browns thought two guys, Dylan Gabriel in the third. I mean, I love Milroe to the Seahawks. Let's talk about QB landing spots. Why don't we, to end this episode off, Garrett? Because it's really fun. Riley Leonard to the Colts, I really like too. But Milroe to the Seahawks might be my favorite spot. They traded the pick to the Raiders that they ended up getting Geno. They got rid of Geno and they got a third round pick. That became Jalen Milroe. So they basically traded Geno Smith for Jalen Milroe. That's a trade I'd do 100%.
Yeah. You know, would you make that deal? Damn good deal. You know, straight out of Inglourious Bastards. But I think the Seahawks Raiders had a really great. I think the Seahawks might low key have the best draft.
With Nick Amenwari.
Gray Zabel, phenomenal offensive lineman, can play literally anywhere if you're having offensive lineman issues. Nick Amenwari, really great player there. Elijah Arroyo, Jalen Milroe, Riley Mills, who I had going in the 7th. They got him in the 5th round. Just really overall a phenomenal draft. Mason Richmond, tackle out of Iowa. I mean, it's a really good draft for Seattle.
Well, and I think they're going to be instant playmakers too. So, I mean,
we talked about this too. I think it's really hard to pick out a bad draft class this year. I think probably my least favorite is the Commanders, which we talked about before. They really needed this to be like a great draft. They were on the fringe of just getting past, maybe even, you know, hitting a bowl, but I just think they whiffed. I don't know.
They did too. They didn't have a lot of picks, and I think it's because they went on the side of let's try to get free agents and trade for stars. Like, dude, I forgot they traded for Deebo Samuel. Did you remember that?
No, and I'm just not the biggest Deebo guy. I never thought like he was anything crazy, so I guess that just kind of like slipped under my radar. But when it comes to like draft class, like I think majority. I don't think you could probably find under a B- for this draft class. I think a lot of the drafts were really good. Like we talked about earlier, yeah, the first round wasn't as flashy, as shiny as you want it to be. Everyone and their mother wants to have a really awesome, cool first round. But like where dynasties and where teams are built is second and after, right? It's like, can you hit your later picks? And there was a lot of value from the 2nd to 7th round, right? So I just think a lot of teams could hit on a lot of places. You can look anywhere and find a good pick. I mean, besides maybe, I don't know, Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd for the Browns.
Actually, yeah, I think the Browns grade is all over the place because they drafted really well when it came to number 5, Mason Graham, and that trade was pretty beneficial to them, especially because they need to build for the future. And they go and do Dylan Gabriel, and then they do
it's Sanders like, I mean, they got guys like Mason Graham, they got Harold Fannin Jr., they got that linebacker out of UCLA. So, like, they had good picks, but then they take Dylan Gabriel.
Well, and then, too, they didn't really draft the positions they needed either, which, I mean, I guess good to do BPA, but not when you're that team they didn't reload on the offensive line either, which I think was a big decision that they missed out on. And then I want to highlight the last draft class before we have to go that I liked talking about was the Bucks. I liked the Bucks strategy, dude. One. The Bucks just said, hey, we're just going to pick whoever we think is the best player. And they took BPA to a whole nother level.
Regardless of whatever we need. When we needed, some decent stuff, just take whoever we like.
And Emeka Ibuka at pick 19. He was probably the safest first-round pick in the later first round, and they got a great wide receiver. And then they went and picked another wide receiver in the 7th round in Tez Johnson, who has a great career production profile, but all of a sudden size issues. That's been the moral of the story of this draft, Garrett, has been size issues. And you know what I think? I hope and I pray that all those short kings out there and light kings and short-armed kings out there prove the haters wrong and end up succeeding in the NFL, because it is so annoying to have a bunch of people sitting at home like me and you, Garrett, telling them that they can't play football because they're too short or their arms are too short or their dick's too small, but they can't play like that. So I got a little passionate there, Garrett, but we had to.
Look, I mean, we've been battling that topic the entire draft, and it's nice to see these players, get the recognition they deserve. I think my sleeper pick of the draft, after looking through all of them, I think Chicago low-key had a sleeper draft. I mean,
sleeper draft. Okay,
interesting decision going Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren, but obviously, we talk about guys going into interview rooms all the time. Obviously, they like something over Colston because they had the option to take both, right? Then they go in, they take Luther Burden in the 2nd round from wide receiver out of Missouri. A lot of Chiefs fans were hankering to have him at 31 for whatever reason. Ozzy Trapilo, offensive tackle out of Boston College. He's going to be a stud. He's got the genes in him. I really like the way he plays football. And Shamar Turner, D tackle in the 2nd round as well. We also had him possibly getting mocked to the Chiefs as well. Really phenomenal player there. And then, later on you got Luke Newman out of Michigan State, guard. I just think they addressed a lot of positions in need, and I think they got a lot of great value players.
And they drafted a Pokemon in the 4th round with Hippolyte.
Ruben Hippolyte the second, baby, linebacker out of Maryland.
They got a Pokemon, man. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these drafts, obviously. Actually, you know what's the one that I forgot to mention? I didn't like the Bengals draft. I wanted to like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Bengals draft. I mean, they seemed to be picking... what do you call it? Like they were trying to play position based instead of or they're doing need based versus BPA, and I think that can get you in a lot of trouble. But we'll see.
They did go a lot of defense, which I think was absolutely the right move, though. I mean, when you have an offense like that and the performance of the defense was just equally as terrible, you needed to get help there.
I'm just not a big Shamar Stewart guy. I'm not gonna lie, and maybe that's because he went to A&M, but I just never was a big fan. So. But hey, take everything with a grain of salt. We're just talking chop for fun today. I mean,
as always,
I do think draft grades are the stupidest thing ever, but I give the Chiefs an A+++ draft grade because
classic S+. Facts.
Yeah, S tier draft. Realistically, though, I give it an A-.
I was probably floating around there. I was probably going to go B+, A-, but I like a lot of the players we got. I think their ceilings are really high, and I'm pretty excited to see how they perform in camp and in preseason. So
honestly, I think the only picks that I would be iffy on are the 2nd and 3rd round pick, which could be proving me super wrong. But it was like I did feel like that was picking because the run on D tackles and D ends was going, and we needed them.
Yeah.
So, but besides that, I feel like we just let whoever we wanted fall to us, and it just worked out really well. So. It was great to have that end of draft. But yeah, I think draft grades are a little dumb because you never know how these guys are going to pan out. All of a sudden, the Browns draft could be an A+ because they got 2 franchise quarterbacks.
But hey, let us know in the comments who your favorite draft class was, who your favorite player was. If you had a draft crush that you were sad didn't go to the Chiefs, we like to hear what your guys' opinions are. And I think we did pretty well.
As always, Garrett, we are just talking chop. You should go check out the Instagram, which is Upper Hand Chiefs on Instagram. You can check out the TikTok too. It doesn't get as much love, but it does exist. You should check that out. Should definitely smash that Spotify like button. I don't think that's a thing, but you should go there. Go to Spotify.
There might be a like button in there, maybe a heart button.
Listen to us in your new car. I bought a new car recently, actually, Garrett. This has been a crazy month financially in terms of bad business decision. Not bad, but I just had to do it. My car broke down, so I had to get a new car. So go listen to us in your brand new car on Spotify. Listen to us in the shower, as always. What's the other thing? What else are we on? We're on Apple Podcasts. You can listen.
Yeah,
to
hey,
the
Apple
podcast.
Podcasts. If you're an Apple Podcast loser, I know we trash on you guys a lot. Okay,
We have a good amount of fans that listen
appreciate
to us
you guys
there.
for listening on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. Give us a 5-star review. Go to the YouTube video and watch it with the visuals. We had a little graphic show today. You know, the pick is in graphic that we had was still left over. So put that up a few times, as well as a beautiful picture of Mahomes' stepbrother, Graham Walker. If this guy makes an NFL team, Garrett, you know, I will literally, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something stupid.
I will say though, if Graham Mertz makes the 53 on the Texans, you're gonna see me in that jersey. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, yeah. I mean, let's be real. That's your boy. You blocked for him. I don't even know if we even mentioned that in the chat, guys. Garrett blocked for Graham Mertz, so of course he's going to back him. Garrett was Graham Mertz's left tackle, and now
Who's
Graham
the
Mertz. Who's the Texans' left tackle now? Didn't they trade away Laramie Tunsil? Oh
yeah.
What the? I forgot the Commanders traded all their draft picks away to get Laramie Tunsil. So that's like that. Why did they get Josh Connerly? Is he going to play right tackle? Interesting.
I think it's just because I think Laramie Tunsil was dealing with an injury at the time.
But they wasted. That's a lot of capital on tackles.
So
hey,
the Texans, so they traded or they signed Cam Robinson and then they drafted Ariantai Irsay.
So they have some options. So
yeah,
hopefully
and obviously
they're better.
Right tackle, the dog Trent Brown, Texans legend,
God.
just the most scary individual probably in the NFL. But
I remember when he was on the Raiders, and he was getting exposed. So I mean, I can't believe he's still in the league. Do they still have Shaq Mason too? That Texans O-line, low-key, is a very hodgepodge.
That's why I said in our media group chat that I wanted them to draft Gray Zabel because I mean he didn't fall to him obviously, but he would have been a really great pick for him.
They just have a lot of hodgepodge going on over there. The Texans O-line. They traded away Kenyon Green too. So like, aye. But hey,
anyway.
We talked a little too much chop. We talked a little Texan. We talked a little Bear. We talked a little Bengal.
We talked a little NFL today. We talked a little all over the place. But as always,
we don't want to leave.
Going forward,
we don't want to leave the podcast.
We are always talking chop.
No, Garrett, don't end the podcast. Don't let us